Okay.
Are we on?
Yeah, on.
Yeah, really?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. This is Gemma, and I'm Giulia. And we're excited to be with you guys tonight for Community Cooks. My name is Giulia Bernardini, and I am an instructor of humanities at the University of Colorado and the founder of Wonderfeast, a small boutique travel company that takes people on trips to beautiful European cities where I grew up for on-site art seminars. And I have been invited by the Boulder Public Library to do a community cooks night with you all tonight, which is pretty exciting and a little bit silly because I'm not a chef. So, Gemma's the chef, and so we're going to cook a couple of dishes tonight that come straight from my nonna Ivana's repertoire. So my father was Italian and my mom's American, and I grew up eating the food of my Roman nonna Ivana, and so I thought I'd share with you a couple of really easy recipes. So, with that being said, just want to let you know that, let's see, oh sorry, hang on just a minute. What is it? What are we cooking? We're cooking pasta ceci and spaghetti aglio, olio, pomodoro. You're not sure they all can understand. So pasta ceci is pasta with garbanzo beans. It's a very typical Roman meal, and a Roman dish rather. And then the other one is spaghetti aglio, olio, pomodoro, which means garlic, oil, and tomato. And it's like pretty much the staple of Roman cuisine. So I just wanted to let you know that this event is part of a new online monthly series called Community Cooks, a virtual dinner party and cooking demo. And this program will be recorded, so if you're not able to follow or if you need to get on with other things, etc., no problem, because you can look at it later. And if you're interested in reading more about Italian cooking, the library has put together a reading list of all the Italian cookbooks in their collection, and the link for that is on the BPL Instagram stories today. So if you have any questions or comments during the course of the evening, for the next, I think we'll be together for about an hour or so, maybe a little bit less, please don't hesitate to share them in the comment box. And my trusted cameraman, if you wouldn't mind turning the camera on yourself for just a moment. This is my very, very bashful Polish husband, Paweł Bosiczko.
Apparently also my dad.
Apparently also your dad. Yes. So Paweł will read the comments to me and fill me in on anything fill you in on anything that I've forgotten to mention or that I need to reiterate or clarify, etc. Okay. Let us know if you're cooking along, by the way, too. You know, it's nice to know if people are cooking while we're cooking. Okay, so the recipe for tonight is posted on the BPL Instagram page, as well as on the BPL website calendar. So, and one last thing. Thank you so much to the Boulder Library Foundation for their generous support of this and many other of the amazing programs at our wonderful, very active library. Right?
Fiore says that she's cooking or he's cooking.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
That's exciting. Great.
Mocha Mama as well, ready to cook.
Okay, great. Let's do it. Let's get going, baby. You know what we need to do? We need to get your scalino. Why don't you go get it? It's right around the corner right there.
Giulia, can you mention a few things about Italian cooking? You know, a lot of people use a lot of garlic, a lot of different things. What's the basis of Italian cooking?
That's a really good question. Is that from someone on the Instagram, or is it?
No, this is from your dear husband.
Okay, so first of all, what we're doing, we're getting started right away by putting the water on the stove to boil, because we're in Colorado and so it takes a while for the pasta water to boil. So it's a good thing to just do right off the bat, right at the very, very beginning. So, you're so cute. All right, honey bunny. Now we need your scalino over here, baby girl.
Okay.
So, coming back to Italian cuisine, the name Italian cuisine or Italian cooking is a little bit of a misnomer, because the truth is that there is no such thing as Italian cooking or Italian cuisine. There's only regional cooking. So what we're cooking tonight is Roman fare. And from Rome, from the city of Rome, where my dad was from and where I grew up for many years. And Roman cuisine is really, really simple. Traditionally, the Romans were very poor people. And so Michael Pollan's eat good food, not too much, mostly plants, that's pretty much the description of Roman cuisine. Because people didn't have a lot of money to eat, important cuts of, or, expensive cuts of meat, et cetera, et cetera. So just before I forget, okay, so we've put our water on, we've turned the heat on, and here, baby girl, if you can put a lid on that. Putting the lid on, of course, helps it to boil faster. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start with the pasta ceci, the pasta and garbanzo beans. So there's a lot of different variations on the pasta e. Pasta e just means pasta and, right? In Roman cuisine, you have pasta ceci, pasta fagioli, pasta piselli, lots of different, dishes like that. And basically what they all have in common is that it's pasta and legumes. So it's super cheap and very, very healthy. It's vegan. I mean, before vegan was even a thing, right? Unless you put a little bit of anchovy or pancetta in there, which, as you may have noticed on the recipe, I made that an optional. So we're going to start by getting the olive oil in our pot. Yes, you can. And in Roman cuisine, olive oil and garlic are pretty much the base of most of the dishes that have some kind of like a stewy quality to them. That includes pasta sauces. So we'll start with some olive oil and garlic. Here we go, baby girl. So you're going to now keep your hand on that. Keep one finger on there. There you go. And then give a nice and very generous swirls of olive oil. Keep going, got plenty to go. On the recipe, I put 2 tablespoons, but I'm kind of eyeballing it here. Keep going, sweet pea. And, but that's more or less what you want. You want about 2 tablespoons worth, maybe 3 at the very most, okay? So, and it's funny because I actually had to look up, even though these are recipes that I've been making all my life, that's good, sweet pea, thank you. Even though these are recipes I've been making all my life, I actually had to look up the recipes because I didn't know the quantities to tell everybody, because I just know when it looks right. And that's because I sort of absorbed the recipes from my grandmother by osmosis. Okay, now we need some garlic. So here's, I think I said 3 cloves of garlic, which is a lot. One thing that Pablo just said that's really important is that, contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, garlic, you want to do this? Sure, sweet pea. So garlic is something that we use pretty sparingly in most Italian cuisines. There are a few dishes that are actually here. Hang on, let me get you the other knife that's a little bit better. There are a few dishes that call for a lot of garlic very deliberately, but most of the times you use garlic really sparingly, because the problem with garlic is that if you overdo it, it just overpowers everything, that all the other flavors in your dish. So when we're peeling garlic, the easiest way to do it, Jimena, do you remember how to do this? That's right, exactly. The easiest way to do it is to put your garlic clove down on your cutting board, then get a nice broad knife like that, and then you squish it, right, Gemma? Careful, don't cut your hand. Squish down. Ugh. Put all your weight on there. Brava, amore mio. I think you're there. Did you do it? No, a little more. Here, mommy will finish up. How about you let me finish that one? There we go. Okay? And what that does is that it just, you see how the peel just comes right off, yeah? Like that, super easy, okay? So we're gonna do another, and then you just, you can cut off a little bit, the little stemmy part where it's attached to the actual head of garlic. And then, yeah, Jem, if you wouldn't mind doing another one, that would be good. I think I put 3 cloves, but I don't know, I'm gonna say probably 2 is enough. Brava, Nini. Ancora? Vai. Yeah. Okay, benissimo, va bene, that's good. Okay, basta, yeah, that's good too.
How many ingredients in typical Roman dish? Is it many?
Very few. So one of the differences between peasant cuisine in general and more refined cuisine, say like, here you can put that right there. one of the more refined cuisines, like say French cuisine or Northern European, is that there are very few ingredients because people didn't have money. They couldn't buy a lot of different ingredients, and you had to use what was lying around or what you had growing in the vegetable garden. And so we're going to turn the heat on our olive oil, and we're going to get our little mincer. And if you want, some people don't even like mincing their garlic. They just put the cloves in whole, and then they pull them out before they actually serve the dish, because some people find that it's too garlicky otherwise. So you see, it's funny, isn't it? It's like there's this belief that we have that we use so much garlic, but in actuality, it's not really the case. Okay, so we're going to put our garlic in there, and then we're going to get our onion. Ce la fai, amore mio?
It's a little difficult.
It's a little tricky.
Okay, maybe mommy
So
can help.
I am finally dicing the onion. Aspetta, pulcino, ti aiuto. Oopsie. I'll help you, honey bunny. You want me to do that? Yes.
Heather asks, she thought that no garlic press.
My nonna would never have used a garlic press because she couldn't be bothered. And they didn't have, they didn't make garlic presses back then. They just, you would just chop it up with your knife in your fingers, in your hand or whatever. There we go. So that's in there. My nonna would never have used a garlic press. My mother, who's American but grew up, with having been married to my father and who cooks a lot of Italian food, she scoffs at the idea of a garlic press. That's silly. I don't know why. I guess it somehow ruins the garlic or something. I don't know. Anyway, so now we're chopping up our garlic. Careful, don't chop your fingers.
Don't want to end up with fingertips.
Don't want to end up fingertips.
Heather's comment is Anthony Bourdain had a strong feelings about it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's funny. Is that Heather Bowling?
Yes.
Oh, hi, honey. We love our Tony. All right, there we go. So now we've got our olive oil and garlic and onion, and we have our chef here is going to do the mixing. Let me see what else I've got on here. I can't remember how I organize the recipe because I always do it by heart, so I don't really.
How long are we cooking garlic and onions?
Until they look great.
How do you know when they look right?
I don't know. They should be a little bit translucent. Like when you're sauteing garlic and onion, it should be a little bit translucent. That usually does the trick. Let me see. Let me get myself back to my recipe. Sorry, it's a little bit embarrassing. I can't remember. Oh dear. I don't know how to find my way back to it.
Gemma.
Oh well. Okay, so this is where once the onion and garlic has gotten a little bit translucent, which it's not quite yet, usually takes about a minute or two. Once the garlic has gotten a little translucent, if you like to have a more sort of flavorful dish, you can add a little 1 or 2 anchovy fillets, or if you prefer, you can use pancetta.
What's pancetta? Where's pancetta?
Pancetta is like basically it's the Italian equivalent of bacon, except it's not smoked, and it's usually a little bit fattier. And you can get that from the supermarket, or you can use bacon too if you want. But the bacon, American bacon, is going to give it a smoky flavor, whereas pancetta doesn't have a smoky flavor. That's completely optional. I'm making it tonight without either anchovies or pancetta. Okay, so now we have a nice. You see how it's getting a little bit translucent there. So now we're going to. What are we going to do next? We're going to do our tomato paste, and you want to put in about the equivalent of a tablespoon of tomato paste. So Nini, se vuoi farlo tu, dai una bella stretta. Stop, vai. Okay, bravo. All right.
Should I stir it in?
Yeah, go for it.
And
Okay.
is it on high? What's the temperature? I mean,
Medium.
Is it medium?
You know, whenever you're cooking, basically medium is good. Unless you need to flash fry something or you need to simmer something after you've gotten it really nice and hot and boiling and you need to just keep it simmering for a while, then you put it low. But otherwise, medium hot. And let me check, sorry. I made something that's not on the recipe tonight, which is some oven cooked carrots from Mademoiselle, who loves, she calls them crispy carrots. So I made crispy carrots for Gemma. Okay, so let's see. Okay, benissimo. Now what we need to put in is our chickpeas.
Gemma,
Garbanzos.
What? Can I try?
Cosa questo? Amore, ma non c'eri riuscita ieri.
Gemma, can you describe the aroma? Is it more than before or less so?
You can do
What's
it.
that?
You're right. Sorry, we're a little preoccupied with that. Sweet pea, I'm a little worried about the way you're bending over and that you might burn yourself on the pot or you might tip over.
Mommy, I do
So
need
here,
your
let
help
me do-
holding back though.
Ecco qua. Be careful here because the garlic and the onion can burn a little bit, so you don't want them to get brown. Huh? You're just sauteing and getting them nice and translucent. Ok? Va bene, amore, basta. Dai, finisco io.
I feel like
Hai fatto? Oh, che brava. Wow, well done.
I was sure I could get one,
Okay.
Mommy.
So now we're going to, I like to keep the water from the garbanzos, from the chickpeas, because I don't see why I should throw it out. I mean, it's nice, it's flavorful, it's got chickpea flavor in it. So I'm gonna strain them, and then I'll add the water back in just a little bit. And the reason I'm doing that is because this allows me to sort of saute. This allows me to saute the garbanzos a little bit. Sweetie, puoi dare una giratina per favore?
Do we drain the chickpeas is the question.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
You can just drain them off, but keep the water. Don't throw the water away.
Keep the water.
Here, so this is a really shimmery, sparky thingy-madoodle part. What, Mommy? Look at me.
Keep staying, baby.
Ma quanto sei carina. Okay, and here we add a nice, generous sprinkling of salt. Keep going, baby girl. Salt, stir, stir, stir. Salt, 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 salt. There we go. And some pepper. There we go.
It's raining pepper.
Voila. And then we need to. Questo lo faccio io però, amore, eh? I sammazzano i pomodori. Okay. So then we need to open our can of San Marzano tomatoes. Now I recommend using these San Marzano ones. They come from Italy. They're definitely more expensive than just, canned tomatoes normal. But the difference is that San Marzano tomatoes are very sweet. They're very, very sweet. And so you don't need to add any funky stuff and sugar and this and blee, blee, blee and blah, blah, blah. It's just the way nature intended. Just sunshine and tomatoes. Basta. So
Do you have any suggestions on what kind of salt?
this is a San Marzano, eh? Oh, no, they're not. This is Italian style peeled tomatoes. I lied.
Cento.
Okay, well, whatever. If you can get the San Marzano ones, they're better. They're tastier. But if you can't, don't worry about it. Not gonna ruin it.
The question, what kind of salt would you suggest?
Well, I mean, I was told, actually by an Ayurvedic doctor, that really if you can, avoid using processed salt. So if you can get, the Celtic salt, it kind of looks gray. Or the pink salt and stuff like that. Basically, the salts that aren't, any salt that's like really white and really clean looking, that's probably not very good for you because they put silicates and all kinds of stuff in there to get it, to make it look pretty. Okay, so we've got our chickpeas, we've got our tomato paste. We need to throw in our thingy of rosemary. Now questo, amore mio, non lo girare, stai attenta, non lo girare troppo. Sorry, I'm saying not to stir it too hard because then all the leaves come off the rosemary, which they probably will anyway. But so you want to keep stirring, but without smushing the rosemary branch too much. Okay, then salt and pepper we did. Okay, now we can put in our tomatoes. Let me get a spoon so I can spoon some in.
Can you buy this type of tomatoes in regular grocery store?
Yes, indeed, you can.
Absolutely.
The only place I have not been able to get good San Marzano tomatoes is King Soopers. King Soopers, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. But at Safeway for sure. At hang on a second, sweetie. At Whole Foods they have it. Sprouts they have them. But strangely at King Soopers no. And also I haven't been able to find San Marzano in Costco. So.
Mommy,
Yeah, baby.
Can I mush the tomato heads?
Sure, you can mush the tomatoes up a little bit. And by the way, you'll notice that one of these tomatoes has a bit, hang on, sweetie, has a little bit of skin on it, so you can just pull the skin off, because skin's not very nice when you're eating, you know, to have skin on you, under your teeth. It's a bit,
Tomatoes.
not a nice texture. Okay, so that's that. All right.
Is there a reason why you put just a little bit?
Yeah, I don't like my pasta ceci super tomatoey. It's not a tomato soup, but some people like theirs really tomatoey, so they'll put a lot more. So this is where our second recipe begins. So now while Gemma's taking care of the garbanzos and all that goodness, I'm gonna start the second recipe, which is pasta, or which is the sugo, the sauce, for spaghetti aglio olio e pomodoro, right? Aglio olio pomodoro just means garlic, oil, and tomato. And so this is great because you got these leftover tomatoes.
That one got
Here we
some
go.
skin, Mommy.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it, sweetie. We'll get it out later. So you've got these leftover tomatoes. What do I do with them? I could put them in the fridge, but if I do, they're just going to go bad because let's face it, once something goes in the fridge, it's as good as gone. So then you can make another sauce with it, yeah? And so you're making two recipes
Can
from
you
one.
freeze this? Can you
freeze the sauce? Absolutely, for sure. In fact, I've got some in the freezer downstairs. Put it back in, sweetie, please. Okay, now we're done with that. We need to add 6 cups of warm water to our garbanzos. Here's 2. Attenta, pulcino. Firma. 2.
Tomato soup.
Yeah, basically.
But how do I watch out for the rosemary now?
Cosa, amore?
How do I watch out for the rosemary?
No, vabbè, adesso non devi più girare. You don't have to stir anymore. 4
What?
and 6.
And also, if I stirred it, it has a very green color and it floats.
There. Okay, so now we've got our water in here. Pulcino, if you can get the onions from the edge, you want to get the onions off of the edge of the pan because otherwise they sit there and they feel very lonely and go like, oh, why can't I be with the chickpeas?
The recipe called for vegetable broth.
Yes. You can use either vegetable broth or chicken broth. I'm making this completely vegetarian in case any vegetarian friends come over. That way it's ready. So I'm going to use, you can use vegetable broth or you can use vegetable bouillon. I'm using vegetable bouillon, okay? So I'm putting 1.
Can you show which one it is?
Oh yeah, sure, sorry. 2.
That looks very gloopy and
It's
dry.
very gloopy, yes, it is very gloopy. Hang on, sweet pea, let me get the last one. And 3. Careful, the spoon's gonna go in, boo-boo.
What?
The spoon, the wooden spoon's about to go in. Yeah, that's it. There. Okay, so that's that. So you can either use the actual broth itself or you can use the bouillon like I just did. I find the bouillon easier to work with because it occupies less space and it's less expensive. There. And also you can kind of gauge, I find the bouillon, the broths rather, usually really bland. They're not very, I don't find them very flavorful. So with the bouillon you can make it more flavorful or salty or however you like it. Should we
add the chickpea liquid?
Oh yeah, thank you. Well done. Yeah.
That's a yes.
That's a yes. And now off we get with the chickpea water. Thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, that's that. Now let's get back to our pasta with our aglio e pomodoro. So now I'm crushing my my garlics again. This time I can't be bothered to mince them. I just don't feel like it, so I'm not going to. So I'm just going to put them in like that, and then I'll fish them out afterwards. 1 and 2. And this aglio e pomodoro is basically, I'd never heard of marinara sauce before, before coming to the States. In Rome, we don't call it marinara sauce. I think maybe marinara is I think it might be from the south or something, from Naples or maybe from Sicily. But in Rome, we don't have marinara. We just have aglio e pomodoro, which is basically the same thing as marinara sauce, except that usually in America, marinara sauce has a lot of other herbs and things in it, and it sits for a long time, and it cooks for a really long time. And anyway, aglio e pomodoro is super easy. So there it is: aglio, garlic, olio, olive oil, e pomodoro. And once the garlic has, gotten a little bit golden, or not golden, but once it's been in there for a little while and it's given some flavor to the oil, then we'll add the tomatoes. Cosa, amore?
How long will that take?
How long will that take?
Marinara is from Sicily.
Marinara is from Sicily.
Mom's
Thank you.
steam's coming
See?
out of there.
I learned something too. Good. So our water is boiling. The pasta water is boiling. We can turn the water down so that it doesn't evaporate too much, but we don't want to turn it off entirely because then we'll be back to square one again.
Speaking of evaporation, earlier in the day, there was a whole series of evaporation at school.
Oh yeah, you learned about evaporation today? No.
But at recess, there were like clouds coming down and coming up from the ground.
Oh, you mean actually happening in the weather?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so now I'm going to put the lid on the pasta ceci, because what we want to do is we want the broth with the chickpeas and the tomato and the whatever to boil. And then once it's boiling, then we put the pasta in. Okay? Meanwhile, oh yeah, that was not very good, Giulia.
Hopefully this answers
What?
question from Mocha Mama. Water is boiling. Should I cook pasta now?
No, not yet. Not yet. So the water that we're boiling here is for the spaghetti that will go with the aglio e pomodoro. Now, if you don't want to eat your spaghetti tonight, you don't have to do this. Just turn the water off on the pot, and just make your sauce and keep it for another night. Because you're gonna get 2 meals out of this. You're gonna get the pasta ceci and you're gonna get the aglio e pomodoro. Okay, I'm just boiling this now so that we have spaghetti to go with the red sauce, so that I can show you what it looks like, right? But normally you wouldn't make both you wouldn't eat both on the same night. Well, I suppose you could if you wanted to, but usually you just eat one or the other.
Yeah, I just can't wait for dinner.
Cute.
Miss
Funny.
Miss Debbie says Gemma needs her own show.
Sweet pea. Gemma, can you wave to Miss Deb?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Miss Deb is Gemma's pre-K teacher. Beloved preschool teacher, huh? All right. So, let's see. What can we do now? What can I tell you now? We're waiting for this to boil. This is not quite gotten translucent and goldeny yet. What else can I tell you?
Pasta. Which kind of pasta?
So, for the pasta ceci, and by the way, like I said, you can translate this recipe to use any legume you like. If you prefer to use pinto beans, you can use pinto beans. If you prefer to use peas, you can use peas. My nonna made it with all kinds of different legumes. So you can do pasta ceci, pasta with garbanzos, pasta fagioli, pasta with beans, pasta piselli, pasta with peas, all kinds of different. Pasta lenticchie, that's another, oh my gosh, that's like super Roman too. Pasta with lentils, yeah? Super, super common. Any variation on that, whatever you've got in the pantry, right? There we go. So now our garlic is It looks like there's some action going on here, so that's good. And I think I can go ahead and throw our tomatoes in there. And this goes right in there. Careful, because it's going to make a little bit of a schizzo, what you call it?
Aren't you going to fish the onions out or the garlic?
The garlic? No, we'll leave them in there while it's cooking, and then we'll take them out right at the end. Okay? There. Voilà.
Mommy, I'm going to go check on the snacks.
You're going to go check on what? Oh, okay.
Wait, what are you doing now?
All right, so I just added a little, sorry, it's like instinct. I just added a little bit of water to the can, so you get all the nice juice out. Voila. Ooh, it's doing beautifully, Eugenia. Okay.
And also the roots are starting to actually pop out. Literally.
Yeah.
We really need it.
Pretty soon we're going to have to plant them, huh? Oh my God, hang in there for a while. It's only March in Boulder. It's going to be a while before we can get those babies in the ground.
Can you? What kind of pasta should you use?
Sorry, back to the pasta. Allora, so, aspetta, amore mio. Bravo, grazie. So this is a good pasta for pasta e ceci. Because really what you're making with pasta e ceci or pasta fagioli, pasta piselli, pasta lenticchie is you're making a kind of pasta stew. So you want your dish to be kind of stewy. It's a good meal for like a cold evening or something like that. But it's also nice in the summertime too. And so usually what works well is a short pasta for this kind of a dish. So either, I got ditalini here, but you can also use elbows or shells or bow ties. Any of the small maccheroni will do the trick. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. We're almost there. We're almost boiling.
Oh, that smells so good.
Yeah? Does it smell yummy?
If you also
Can you smell the rosemary a little bit? Yeah.
if you take a smell at this, you will smell one of your favorite things.
What's that?
One of my favorite things is tomato and rosemary, which I love too much.
What about the long pasta?
So the long pasta, so these spaghetti, so I didn't have spaghetti, I just have spaghettini, these are called, or thin spaghetti in English. And so I'm going to use these for the aglio, olio, pomodoro. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about how different thoughts about different pastas and tomato sauce?
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, that's like, wow, we can start a whole never-ending debate here. So it's funny, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. Certain pasta goes with certain sauces, but how do you learn that? How do you teach that? I don't even know. It's just something that I think it's in the DNA. Aglio, olio, pomodoro is perfect for spaghetti or for penne or for rigatoni. So you want to use the long pasta for it, or sort of big, chunky pasta noodles. Yeah. It's just weird. I don't know how to. It's like I really don't know how to tell you what goes with what sauce. It's just something that I know I would be like, no, don't put that pasta there. That's ridiculous.
Great question. When do you use spinach?
Whenever you want. So you can put the spinach in. If you want spinach, if you want to make this a little bit more of like an all-around meal, that it's like a one-pot meal where you got the whole family's got them their vegetable allotment taken care of too, then you wait until the very end to put the spinach in, because the spinach is going to wilt. Yeah? And you don't want to overcook the spinach, because then it just gets all like bleh, mushy. Okay, this is almost boiling.
Betsy's comment is that maybe there should be another class about pasta pairings.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right. Can you cut that up? I'd really rather not. Here, well, how about you let me do it, sweetie? I don't want you to cut yourself, because you need a sharp knife for this. Can you bring me your little knife? I don't know, is this the plate you were using?
No.
Well, this is the plate you get now, okay?
Ooh,
Somebody's getting hungry. Sorry, guys. So I'm getting a little...
Sorry, cooking with a 6-year-old.
Gemma, can you lift very carefully, I don't want you to burn yourself. Can you lift the lid on the orange pot and see if the water is boiling, if the liquid is boiling? Is it bubbling a little bit?
Yes.
Good, that's a good sign. Okay, so here you go. This is your, all right, here, you can put that back. And here's your mango.
Yummy.
And you can take that over to the table to eat.
Okay.
Okay? Allora, now that this is boiling, how are we doing for time, by the way? I have no idea. Oh, okay, good. Perfect time. All right, so now that this is boiling, we can put the pasta in. But before we put the pasta in, we have to taste it, because you can't make food if you don't taste it.
Why would you want to taste it first?
You always have to taste it first. Make sure that the flavors are right. If you have to add more bouillon, you can.
What is it? One of the first things you've taught your dear husband. What was it about?
What's that?
Taking salt away?
Yeah, you can always add more salt, but you can't take salt away. Va bene? It's a bit bland.
Delicious.
Whoop, I think it's a bit bland. I think it needs another slop of the bouillon.
Okay, then give it another slop of bouillon.
Yeah. Romans like their food salty. We're salty people. So, it's very...
Though I like it just how it is.
You like it just like that? I won't put too much in then. How about that? Okay, I'll just put a small slop. Huh?
Small slop.
Okay.
And then can we taste it? I just love this.
Voila. Then, while that's absorbing and melting in, I like to do the following. Whoever the New York Times person whose recipe I very shamelessly pirated, they don't have this step, but I like it because I think that it makes your pasta ceci or pasta fagioli or whatever you're making a little bit more stewy and less soupy. So I'm using an immersion blender. You can do this also with one of those blenders if you don't have an immersion blender, but just be careful, don't fill it too high. In fact, just put a couple of cups in, maybe, at the very most, and make sure that you are standing well away from it with your hand on the lid, because if it explodes, oh boy, that's uncomfortable for everyone. Okay, so I'm just going in and I'm blending a few times. That's it. I don't want it to be too, I don't want to do all of it because I like having a few full beans, but I think that gives it a nice texture. So now do you see it's boiling? Okay. And now we can put in our pasta, and let's see. I think I figured out that it's about a cup and a half of the ditalini. This is ditalini, and ditalini is Barilla. My favorite brand of on-the-shelf pasta is Dececco, Dececco. Oh, yeah, this one. Exactly. Thanks, honey. It's the best quality one. So, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's very good. So here we have a cup and a half, which is about that much.
So wars have been started over this question. How
Yes.
long to cook pasta?
Thank you. You cook pasta as long as you like it. Oh. And the thing is that with this pasta, it's going to get smushy because it's sitting in you're not draining it. You've put the pasta directly in the soup. And the soup, even though at a certain point you'll turn it off, it will continue to cook the pasta. So it's going to get mushy. And it's a meal, or not mushy, it's going to get soft. If it's good pasta, it won't get mushy, it'll just get soft. There's a difference. Bad pasta gets mushy. Like some of the gluten-free ones are not that great. I asked friends who are actually Italian and experienced with gluten-free pasta, and let's see, which ones did they recommend? They recommended jovial or pasta d'oro, because I've noticed that some gluten-free pastas they fall apart, they just become paste, and you don't want that.
William would like to know if you leave the rosemary in or take it out.
I leave it in until the very end. There's no reason to
When you
take it
talk
out.
about the very end, the end is done with cooking and then you take it out, or do you leave it in the pot forever?
I leave it in the pot for In other words, I'll leave it in there so long as we have pasta ceci even in the fridge, it'll be in the container in the fridge. But I won't actually put it in somebody's bowl because usually rosemary is, most people don't like actually chewing on actual, you know, what's it called? Leaves of rosemary because it's quite bitter. But it's certainly so fragrant, and so you don't want to take it out. You just don't want to actually serve it as part of the bowl of pasta. Okay, so now in the meantime, if I'm not mistaken, our aglio pomodoro is simmering away. Yeah? Can you come in on this a little bit, sweetheart? Thank you. So you'll notice that we have. I didn't even take the time to smush my tomatoes, and now I will do so. What should you do, Sweetie? Well, let's see. What can you do? You can. Here. Do you want to give this a stir? Here, you can stir this while I'm doing this. Okay. There. So this is now well on its way, and that whole business of the pasta sauce is cooking for 3 hours on the stove and it doesn't really need that. I mean, I suppose you could do that, it makes for a more concentrated flavor, but generally speaking with Roman style aglio pomodoro, it doesn't cook very long. It just, you have to let it cook until it makes what my mother refers to as puddles, which you'll see in just a little bit.
This is recipe 2.
This is recipe 2,
Jean
yes.
Wanted to know, she missed the part about chickpea water.
Oh yeah, you can throw the chickpea water in with the water that you've added to the chickpeas to make the broth that you're cooking the whole kit and caboodle in. You can throw the chickpea water in at any point. Don't worry about it. There's no such thing as wrong timing. What, sweetie?
I found the skin.
You found the skin again? That's actually not the skin. That's the little butt of the tomatoes.
The
So
butt? What?
Here, hold it there and let me I'll cut the tail off. Huh?
Or the butt, as you called it.
There. Bye. Okay. Bye.
And you go.
Okay. Let's turn on a few more lights because it's getting a little bit darker down here. Careful, Baba. Okay. Now.
We're getting far away from the sequel.
Okay. We still haven't added salt to our aglio pomodoro, so we want to do that. There we go. Okay. So this is one that I've found. This is the slightly coarser one, ancient kosher sea salt. You gotta have good teeth for this one because it's got grit in it. I don't love it, but this is the best thing. I don't know what I want. Unprocessed and it's good for you. Okay.
And it's
So we'll use this
considered real salt.
Yes, and it's exactly.
What's the name of the brand again?
It's that one.
Redmond Real Salt.
Yeah. This is the one I prefer, but I can't find it fine for some reason. I'm only finding it coarse lately. They used to sell it fine, and now it's only coarse. This one is the really good one. Yeah, this one here, I like it a lot. And you taste it, and it has a nice, it's good. It's good salt. Taste it. Okay, so that is done. Okay, so now, Amore, would you mind? Yeah, thanks. So now you'll notice, do you see how there are like little puddles forming? Puddles of oil in the aglio pomodoro? That's good. That's good. That means that the, let's say the liquid, the watery liquid of the tomatoes is evaporating a little bit and it's leaving behind a thicker sort of concentrate, if you will, and the oil on top of that, right? The oil is kind of puddling in there. Oh, grazie. All right, so that, sweet pea, if you want, now we can, the pasta ceci, now we can turn it nicely down. Doesn't need to be boiling quite so hard, right? There, and we can put a lid on it, but with a spoon so it doesn't boil over. And then in the meantime, we can turn our pasta water back up to boiling.
Really boiling.
Yeah, sure is.
So, sorry, couple of questions. What are we doing with escarole?
Oh, so the escarole or the spinach, you can put into your pasta ceci once the pasta is cooked. You don't want to put it in before that, because then, like I said before, it'll just get really overcooked. And
Spinach cooks quite quickly, right?
yeah, very quickly. Spinach cooks really quickly. I've never used the escarole before, but I have a feeling that it's kind of like the spinach. It probably takes a little bit longer than the spinach. So, you know.
Yolanda says, no, keep endings.
Yolanda, that's like Yo-Yo? That's my mommy?
Yes.
Hi, Mommy. Hi, Mommy. It's Grammy, sweetie.
Is the pasta cooked in the chickpea sauce? And
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The pasta is cooked inside the chickpeas.
Wait.
You see, this whole business right here is your garlic and onion and chickpeas and tomato paste and a little bit of tomato and salt and pepper and the rosemary, and it's all cooking together in a beautiful broth that you've made with that water and chickpea water and, oh, thank you, Ernie, and a little bit of bouillon. Okay?
Thank you. Good speak.
There. All right. So now, can you see? Can we see the aglio pomodoro? That it's getting nice and puddly. Yeah. That's almost done. You know, there's not much to it. It's really easy. And by the way, one of my fondest memories of aglio pomodoro, and it's funny that Mommy, you'll remember this. That so in a lot of times aglio pomodoro being one of the fastest pasta sauces to make. And the most basic. All Italian families always have, well, at least in central and southern Italy, we always have cans of tomato in the house, always. So it's super easy and fast to make. And we would take it. My mom would make it. Yolanda would make it, and we'd go down to the beach to have like a picnic at the beach. And so we'd have spaghetti on the beach, and it was always just such a wonderful thing. We had this great big Tupperware container, white Tupperware container with a white Tupperware lid, and it was like this very, very precious thing, because at the time in Rome there was no such thing as Tupperware, so we had this Tupperware container from America, and she would put the aglio pomodoro spaghetti in there, and it was just always this wonderful treat, because it would no longer be piping hot, and it would be kind of cold, and especially in the summer times you actually want it to be really cold. You don't want your pasta to be super hot sometimes. Depends. And then the other times that aglio pomodoro makes a big appearance is at parties. So Romans are very, very fond of parties, and I grew up where partying meant dancing, and dancing until like 3 o'clock in the morning. And so people's birthday parties, New Year's Eve, whatever, you have parties. And inevitably, sometime at around like 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe 2 o'clock at the very latest, somebody would come out with, the host usually, would come out with a huge pot of aglio pomodoro spaghetti, and everybody would get a bowl and eat, because God forbid you should go for too long without eating. So you'd be sweaty and dancing and eating your pasta, and it was great. So now we need to put a little bit of salt in our water, because of course you need to salt your water. As a general rule of thumb, in our family, we have kind of created an unspoken rule that you never salt the water of the pasta until you're actually ready to throw the pasta in. And the reason for that is that there have been too many times that the pasta water has been salted, 2, 3, 4 times over. Because somebody walks by and is like, oh, pasta water's boiling, but I'm throwing some salt. So we put the water in there, the salt, and we give it a little stir. And we let it evaporate, and then dissolve, and once it's dissolved, then we put in the pasta. Okay? And you'll notice that I put a pretty generous little mound of salt in there. Okay? And now you can see your aglio pomodoro is nicely bubbling. It's got some beautiful little puddles there. You see that there's it's mostly it's more kind of oily, shiny than it is watery, opaque. Does that make sense? Do you guys see that? I don't know. I'm tasting it just to see how it tastes. It's good. Okay. There we go. Meanwhile, let's have a look at our friends over here. These are getting close to being cooked, but not quite. Excuse me. No, they're cooked. Okay, so you can turn this off.
How can you tell they're cooked?
I don't know. And when it's not, well, it didn't, you don't want it crunchy, right? And I actually like my pasta kind of soft. I am not an al dente person. I tend to like mine a little bit softer. Al dente means that it offers resistance to the tooth. Al dente is the tooth. So I usually like my pasta a little bit more softer rather than firm. And since this is going to continue cooking the pasta even after I've turned it off, so I'm turning it off right now. This is a good time for those of you who have spinach or escarole to go ahead and, plonk that in there, right? And I'm turning the heat off, but this will continue cooking inside the pot because it's so hot, all right? So you can turn it off when it feels good to your, when you feel like, oh, okay, that's good. It's soft enough, but it's not mushy. You don't want it to be really soft because then it's going to continue cooking even further.
Whoa,
So,
Mommy, it looks like those are tornadoes turned upside down.
yeah, upside down tornadoes. Okay, now we're going to throw in our spaghetti.
Where? In there?
Tutti a tavola. Sto buttando la pasta.
Why? On the table.
Beh, tra un po', in a little bit. Usually when the pasta gets thrown in Italian households, everybody knows it's time to get ready. Get ready to get to the table. So we put it in. I like to twist it like that. Makes it easier to get in.
Mommy, that's amazing.
Yeah. Always use a generous pot for your pasta. You don't want your poor pasta to be all squished. It likes space. It likes to...
Do you break the pasta?
No, my God, don't break the pasta. No. Heavens, no. No. You don't
Why
break
not?
the pasta. No, because you're making spaghetti. I mean, if you want, you can. There's no reason why not.
But there are rules.
But there are rules, darn it. No, if you want, you really only break the pasta if you want short noodles and you're out of them and you only have long ones, then you break them to take the place of, the short noodles. Okay, there we go. So this is in, and I like to, because this is Colorado and the water stops boiling immediately, I like to, again, do the same thing I did before with the pasta Ceci, which is to put the lid on, but, prop it open with the spoon. Now this aglio pomodoro, this is ready. Voila. We can turn this off. And there we go. And now we're getting ready pretty soon. Oh my gosh, it's almost time. Gee whiz, I've been bending your ear for over almost an hour now. And this is, as most soups are, always better the next day. All right? So you can eat it tonight for sure, of course. I like to let it sit a little bit. I wouldn't start eating it right away because it's still a bit watery for my taste. I like my soups to be quite thick and stewy. So I would give it another maybe, 15 minutes or so before serving it. Also, that cools it down a little bit and allows the flavors to amalgamate a little bit more. But it will definitely be even more delicious tomorrow, for sure.
Can you make this ahead and freeze it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. And when you serve it, some people like to add a little drizzle of olive oil, and then you can put some grated pecorino cheese on top. Pecorino comes from sheep. It's the sheep cheese, as opposed to Parmigiano, which comes from cows, right? And so the sheep cheese is going to be bitier. It's going to have a tangier, saltier flavor, and it goes very nice with the sweetness and relative blandness of the chickpeas and tomatoes, right? Also, I put 6 cups of water in here, but you might find that you like your pasta ceci much brothier, so you might put more water next time. Or you might find that you like it much thicker, so you might put 5 cups instead of 6 of water. So it's really up to you. There's no wrong way to do it. Okay? So that's that. here we have, let's have a look at our spaghettini. And I thought what I'd do, very briefly, before we say goodbye, is to do a little spaghetti eating demonstration.
Healthy spaghetti, yes.
Because for some people it can be kind of complicated, you know, you think, oh my gosh, this is so messy and it gets all over the place, and we have some wonderful videos of baby Gemma sucking on one spaghetti at a time, going and getting it all over her face. No, Amore? Remember that when we were in Venice?
I don't remember Venice.
So this, what do you remember?
I can't actually believe that some people know around this.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Isn't that funny that Grammy's there and Miss Deb? Okay, so this is, I like my aglio olio pomodoro quite chunky. A lot of people don't. They prefer it. My mom is probably like frowning and scoffing at just hearing that. She likes her aglio olio pomodoro very, very chunky, don't you, Mommy? So, I'd like to mash the tomatoes up a little bit, but not too much. But it's really up to you. Some people don't like the big piece of tomatoes. It's really, it's a personal preference. Okay.
Posy mentions that the spoon boiling over trick is quite ingenious.
Yes, right? Isn't that great? Yeah. Okay.
What kind of spoon should you use? Any old plastic spoon?
Well, I use the wooden spoons because that way there's no danger of anything catching on fire and melting. Because believe me, the number of times that I've walked away from something because I have to go fix some other problem or whatever, I would have lost many a spoon by this point in time. All right, so now, aglio olio pomodoro is a great base for stuff. So one of my favorite pastas that's based on aglio olio pomodoro, so I'm going to have myself a little drink of birretta here. I've got my beer. I don't drink wine. I know it's crazy. Italian doesn't drink wine. But you can add, one of my favorite things to do with aglio olio pomodoro is to add a can of tuna in olive oil. Just throw that in there. Once it's done, you just throw it in. You don't have to cook it because it's already cooked. You just add the tuna in olive oil and put that in there, and that's a really nice pasta. That's a really nice sauce for, usually it goes well with shorter pastas because that way the tuna, the bits and pieces of tuna can get inside and caked onto the short pasta. Another thing you can do is with aglio olio pomodoro, if you like, you can add a little bit of shredded basil on top. It's very nice.
What kind of veggies would you add to that? What's the veggie part?
I wouldn't. I just
on the side.
Yeah, I would make vegetables on the side. And usually, vegetables in Rome come usually, not always, in two fashions. And this is a little bit reductive because there are other ways of making vegetables too. But for the most part, you either saute vegetables, like Swiss chard, for example. You clean it, you cut it up, chop it up. In sort of like 1/2-inch strips. Horizontally, and then you just saute it in a pan that's got some olive oil and garlic in it. Then you throw your Swiss chard in, stir it around a little bit, maybe put the lid on for a little bit to let it wilt, and then if you want, you can add some chili pepper just to give it a little bite, or you can add a little bit of lemon juice or both, maybe a little bit of parmigiano, if you really like that. Or the other way to make vegetables, according to the Roman tradition, is to steam them, and then after you finish steaming them, you add a little bit of raw olive oil and lemon juice and salt and pepper.
Are those side dishes, is that they're murdered or are they over steamed or?
It depends. Mostly yes. Traditionally, Roman steaming means like killing the green beans. They like the green beans to be super soft or the spinach to be super soft, but it depends on who's making it. It's really, a matter of taste. I like my green beans to be quite sprightly.
Can you show how to make the pepperoncino?
Yes. Shout out to Barbara and Mott Groom. This is Mott's Hot, okay? And Mott Groom was my father's best friend, and we always had a jar of Mott's Hot in the house. And basically, Mott's Hot was the result of Mott Groom putting chili pepper in olive oil and letting it sit for a nice long time. And So my father used to make matzah. Well, he was gifted it by Mott. And then he would make his own sometimes when he ran out and Mott was nowhere to be found. And now my husband is making matzah. So hooray for the grooms.
Can you open it up? And
Oh yeah,
see?
sure, sorry.
So how do you make it?
Oh, it's super easy. Just get a little jar, one of those things of red chili flakes from the supermarket. Dump it in a jar and cover it in olive oil.
And then?
And then that's it. You just let it sit there for a year. I mean, you don't have to wait a year to use it. You can use it right away.
So what happens to
But
the
the longer you
olive
leave
oil?
it there, the pepperier your oil gets, and the more bitey it is. Very nice.
Right. Can we?
Okay, I think our pasta might be ready. Most likely it is. In fact, I probably overcooked it. The spirit of my father is probably looking down on me and frowning in horror, and my nonna too. No, it's perfect. Okay. Molto bene. So now, this is the key thing. This is something that very few people are aware of who aren't Italian. The most important ingredient in pasta is acqua di cottura, the water that you cook the pasta in. So before you strain, you take a mug, you go in, and you get some of the pasta water in your mug, and you just set it aside for a second. Then, turn off your heat. Boy, that thing's noisy. And drain your pasta. Incidentally, my colander here was my Nonna Ivana's colander, which is quite sweet. I love thinking of that. Every time I make pasta, I'm making it in her colander that she used all the time.
And I also recommend putting your face over this mirror.
Gemma's beauty salon suggests steaming your face over the poro pasta.
And you can just hold your head over the pasta. Okay, hold.
Gemina.
Hold up, sweetie. Careful. Okay, so now I'm putting my pasta in here
Your face gets so soft.
in my bowl. Then,
Is the pasta still cooking?
beg your pardon?
Is the pasta still cooking?
Yeah. Ow. Oh, mamma mia. My hand's cooking. No, yeah, a little bit. I mean, you mean like right now?
Yes.
After taking it out of the thing?
Yeah.
Not really, because the water's gone. You never put your pasta under cold water. Never.
Jamais.
No. Poor pasta. My gosh, it's been all nice and cozy in there in the water, and then you put it in the cold and go like that. Okay, so now you put a little bit of tomato sauce on top. All right, there's your aglio, olio, pomodoro. So you notice that I'm not using a lot. It's always